Welcome to Barkhausen Nature Bites. Today we're talking about these critters in my hands right here, which are tadpoles. Now tadpoles are fascinating little critters for sure. They're one of the stages of a life cycle of a frog, and all frog species will have a tadpole at earlier stages of their life. And to go from a tadpole to adult frog, they're going to undergo metamorphosis. Now how do they know when to do that? There's a lot of factors that help them determine that. They're not just going to do it in the same day every single year. The physical stresses of their environment basically help them determine when to turn into adult frogs. This one's really active right now. So for example, the water temperature plays a factor, how many other tadpoles are there, also how much oxygen, how much food's available. So for some frog species, let's say spring peepers and great tree frogs, who put their tadpoles in areas, whoop, there we go, got them back. They put their tadpoles, their eggs in temporary wetlands, vernal pools we call it, out in the woods that do dry up in the summer. Well, they can just be really conscious of that water temperature, how much oxygen's in there, and should that wetland start shrinking fast, they can just kind of transform a frog a little bit quicker. Or for some frog species like green frogs or bullfrogs, I'm guessing these are probably green frog tadpoles, that put their eggs and tadpoles in bigger wetlands like this that don't dry up, so larger ponds and lakes. Well, they can actually delay their metamorphosis so that way that they can actually get larger, because really the larger the tadpole is, the larger it turns into a frog. That frog lip will be larger and the better chance they have on survival. So for green frogs and bullfrogs, they're the only two species of frogs in Wisconsin here that are going to actually have their tadpoles over winter. So if you ever see tadpoles late in the fall, even early fall, right about now, I'm guessing these guys are green frogs again, or early spring, you got green frogs or bullfrogs. And you can tell a difference, but it's really tricky to get up close and look at them. Oh, this one just fell out, got it back. Gotta get up close and look at them. But green frogs and bullfrogs are only two that overwinter. And so it could take a couple weeks for some frog species, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, but for the bullfrogs and green frogs, it could take 12 months, it could take 14 months. It really depends on when the eggs are actually laid. So what do they do over the winter? Well, they're going to be beneath the ice, but they're not hibernating like their adult counterparts. Tadpoles here, they can absorb enough oxygen through their skin. They also have gills. Some species or some tadpoles do have lungs as well, but they can absorb enough oxygen that way. So their adult counterparts, yeah, they're going to be hibernating down the mud. Tadpoles really are active all winter long. We actually saw this one winter, this last winter I believe. I have some pictures where we saw tadpoles come up through holes in the ice or in that melted slush on top of the ice swimming around, probably because they had a lot of oxygen in it. So for tadpoles, one thing they just kind of found out too as far as tadpoles breathing is that, again, some tadpoles have both lungs and gills, especially tadpoles that have areas of low oxygen environments, so they have to go up to the surface to gulp air for that oxygen. Well, some tadpoles are too small to do that. What I mean by that is when they go up to the surface of the pond, they actually just bounce off that surface of the pond and just kind of go right back down. They can't break that plane on the surface of the water. So what they actually did, and they found this out just recently, some scientists out east with a slow motion camera, is that the smaller tadpoles will go to the bottom or the undersurface of the top of the water, if that makes sense, attach their mouth to it and draw a bubble into their mouth, exchange that what's already in their lungs, go back down, and then just kind of breathe that bubble in. Bubble's usually too big for a lung, so some of it goes back to the surface, and that's how they get their oxygen, which is really kind of crazy to see. And I saw this on a slow motion camera just recently, and they've just called it bubble sucking, because why complicate things? You're just sucking bubbles in, so that's what's happening there. So pretty cool stuff there. Now what do tadpoles eat? Well, they're going to eat plants mostly, a lot of algae. They're going to take their mouths, and they have little teeth. They're kind of like me, the same stuff as your fingernails, your keratin right there. And they're going to scrape the algae off plants and rocks and suck it in, kind of like mini vacuum cleaners. Now, as they start to grow their front legs, so they start with the back legs and they grow their front legs, the tail will start to shrink, and the tail is actually absorbed as a food source. So they actually eat their own tail. So it doesn't just fall off. They actually, it shrinks, and now that's just like a little permanent buffet they have on their backside there that they eat right up. It's a nice, juicy, meaty tail. Why let it go to waste? So they actually eat their own tails in a weird way. So that's fun. So as you're out and about this summer here, this fall, and going into spring, you see tadpoles around, especially you'll see them kind of go on surface, gulping some air. Let's look at them, fascinating little critters. Think of all the cool facts of them. It's riveting for sure. Thanks for watching Barkhausen Nature Bites.